Today we're talking about an interesting product on our YouTube channel. Recently a company called Digitalfoto reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to review one of their products for them. And the product is supposed to stabilize your gimbal footage even more by adding an additional axis. And since I love testing new products that could make our life easier or raise our production quality, of course I said yes. So let's find out if this gadget is actually doing what it's supposed to do. My name is Damien and welcome to Monkey Pixel.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
So the product itself is rather simplistic. You have two side handles attached to two springs, you put your one-handed gimbal in the middle, and that's pretty much all the product is. With the DH04, you can pretty much use any one-handed gimbal you like. May it be a Ronin S, a Xeon Crane 2, 3, or even a Weebill S, and Moza Airs and Moza Airs 2, and you know, all the rest basically. And since not all one-handed gimbals are created equally and have different sizes and shapes, you actually have different kind of mounting options with the DH04. And we tested this with our Crane 3 lab, and in hindsight this is probably one of the worst gimbals to actually test this product with. But we still made it work since the company actually ships an additional handle that you can put between your gimbal and the mini tripod on the bottom to actually get yourself a mounting option for the DH04. But if you have a Ronin S or a Moza Air, then you have different attachment rubber thingies in the middle that are actually customized for each gimbal. So you just put it in the middle and that's pretty easy to do. Another cool feature is that it also comes with different springs in different strength. So if you have a heavier setup, you can actually swap them out for bigger springs, or if you have a lighter setup, you can swap them out for lighter ones. Our setup sits right in the middle between two springs, because the standard springs are up to 4.5 kilograms, and then you also have the stronger ones that range from 4 to 8 kilograms, and I think our setup is right around 4, a little bit over 4 kilograms. So I tried swapping them out for the stronger ones because I kind of felt like the whole thing was a little bit too wobbly, but then, and here's the first point, I put it back together too strongly, so it didn't move at all anymore. So when unscrewing all the screws, you have to put them back together kind of loosely, otherwise you kind of defeat the purpose of having this additional axis. But the whole thing is easy enough, I guess. It just takes a little bit of fiddling, but you can do it just by yourself and it's really no rocket science. But now that I've already mentioned the wobbly part, this is pretty much the first thing that comes to mind when using this gimbal. You set it up, you pick it up, and it starts just shaking and jumping up and down. So you kind of feel like it's actually making your footage worse than it actually does make it better. But then after using it for a little bit and a while, you actually see that all these up and down movements isn't the gimbal, but it's actually your body moving up and down. And that is pretty much what you're trying to avoid when using this. So it's actually working quite well. It does, however, need a little bit of getting used to, that's for sure. The last thing that comes with the gimbal is a strap that you can put around your neck and attach to the side handle, so it takes a little bit of weight off the entire setup. I, however, didn't use this, and I think the 1/4-20 screw holes that are attached to the side handles can be used more efficiently when mounting a monitor or a microphone to it. But now let's actually see some footage. So what I did is I put the camera into 25 frames and just kept walking casually, but I kept walking like I would usually walk with a gimbal in the so-called ninja walk. So here's one with just the gimbal. And here's another one with the DH04 attached. So in my honest opinion, I didn't really see too much of a difference. So I wanted to go a little bit more extreme and started running with it. And here's the one with just the gimbal. And here's the footage with the DH04 attached. So now you can definitely see an improvement. I also tested it walking down a huge flight of stairs, and as you can see, the footage is really smooth and looks kind of floating out of this world, and I really like this, and I could totally see a huge improvement walking down stairs. Unfortunately, right after doing the first test run, we were kicked out of the arsenal for looking too professional, and that is something I will get into in a minute, but I couldn't really test the before and after, but it definitely gave us a really smooth footage, and we couldn't really find any more stairs because it started raining. And speaking of the rain, it's been really frustrating lately because it's been raining here like crazy, and before that there was the obvious lockdown, so we didn't really have too much time to actually test this properly, and we have to make do with the limited test that we actually did do. So what are my thoughts of the footage after using it for a little bit? I think the differences in most cases are rather minimal. In some cases where you start running or you start walking up and down stairs, it actually does make a big difference. But here's the thing, I wasn't really complaining about the footage before I attached the DH04 at all, and I think it's really smooth either way. So if you're satisfied with the way your gimbal operates, and I pride myself of being pretty stable with my ninja walk and the handling of the gimbal in general, so I wasn't really complaining in the first place. So that isn't to say that the thing doesn't work or doesn't improve your footage, but in my opinion there wasn't too much to improve in the first place. And that could be totally different for your gimbal, for your setup, or for your kind of workflow. So what are the good and what are the bad things about the DH04? Let's start with the bad things. So number one, it obviously adds a little bit of more weight and a bigger setup to your gimbal. And it also kind of hinders you from doing some kind of movements, like getting those underslung shots with the Crane 3. And especially, like I already said, the Crane 3 is a bad example because you have to attach another handle on the bottom, and that makes the overall size of your setup even way more bigger. But if you had a Ronin S or a Moza Air or something in that kind of range, I actually think you wouldn't really notice the two additional handles too much. So what are the things that I do like about the DH04? I do like that it gives you additional mounting options, and especially with the Crane 3, you don't really have a lot of these. So if you want to mount a monitor or if you want to mount a microphone, on most one-handed gimbals, this is actually a pain in the ass. And now with the dual handle setup and the additional 1/4-20 screws on top, you actually have more mounting options, and that makes adding some more stuff to your equipment a breeze. Another thing that I really like about the DH04 is that it's just a dual handled setup, and I much prefer dual handled setups or even a ring setup over the traditional one-handed gimbal solutions, because I think even on longer shoots it's a way better weight distribution and it's also way easier to maneuver. And one thing that could be seen as good and bad is that the whole setup will look way more professional. And in our case, that wasn't necessarily a good thing because we were immediately kicked out of the arsenal because he already told us you look way too professional and this can't be private, so we can't film here. And in most situations, this is obviously not a good thing, but there's also a lot of situations where it is. So for example, you go to a client shoot, and obviously this shouldn't make a lot of difference because they should judge you on your footage. But when you actually come there and you have a big setup like a Crane 3 attached to the dual handle setup, it actually just makes your client feel like you're more of a professional. And I know it sounds stupid, but that could be a good thing. So what's my overall verdict of the DH04? Is this a tool that I will permanently attach to my gimbal and take out on every shoot? No, I will not. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have a place in our tool bag. So can I see myself using this on commercial shoots or music videos? I totally can, because it does have some cool features to it, like the additional mounting options, the better handling due to the dual handle grip, and obviously getting the smoothest footage out of your gimbal shots. Especially considering that the whole thing is less than $100, and that is usually what a dual handle setup runs for anyway. So now you have an additional spring setup that could actually make your footage a little bit smoother. Even though it's just marginal in most situations, I can totally recommend it. But on a last note, I really don't think that the Crane 3 is the best option for this product. And I think that something like a Ronin S is definitely better shaped for using the DH04 with. But there you have it. As always, I put some links in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you like this kind of video, I hope you subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you on the next one.